Can you see it?
Green. Yep, we can see you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Kyle's right. It took me 5 seconds to figure out that I wanted to do a speech about handkerchiefs. You see my husband there? He's wearing a handkerchief through the whole pandemic. Lots of people are. It took me 5 hours to do the research on the internet. Another 5 hours to choose slides for my speech. And another 5 hours to organize my speech onto a chronological timeline. And about a minute to decide my speech was too long and I'd have to cut it in half. Let's start let's step back 2,000 years to the Egyptians. The Egyptians carried long, white square linen cloths. We don't know why. It's not written anywhere why they used them, but they did. Let's go to 1000 BC. In China, they used the square cloth to cover their heads from the sun. The Greeks used the cloths to mask the smell of perspiration, not only on themselves, but anybody sitting nearby. The Romans, only the wealthy had the square cloths. And let's say they used them to wipe their faces, and let's hope that they were absorbent. They also used the square cloth to throw into the Colosseum to begin the gladiator contests. But that's not all. They used the square cloths into the Colosseum to begin the chariot races. During the Middle Ages, the cloths were used for the knights in shining armor that would go off to battle. The damsels would give their most prized possession, the handkerchief, to wear into the helmets, and the knights would promise to bring back the cloth after the war. They had to come back because they had to bring back the cloth. During the 13th century, we see the cloth reappearing for the first time as a head cloth in the Bible. During the 14th century, for the first time, the word handkerchief was used by King Richard II. He formalized the word handkerchief. In the 16th century, in England, the handkerchief became very showy. Layers and layers of lace was used and became a fashion statement for sure. Meanwhile, in the 16th century in Italy, Catherine de' Medici used the handkerchief for the same reason they did in England. It was purely a social status. She had her handkerchiefs embroidered with silver and gold. During the Tudor era in the 16th century, the women used the handkerchiefs for flirting. They stood across the room with their hankies and they would wave to men, and that meant it was appropriate and okay for a man to come up and speak. Of course, they did this without their governess watching. They flirted a lot with their handkerchiefs. Now, Shakespeare used the handkerchief as a major plot device in his play, Othello. In fact, there was a big misunderstanding. The handkerchief was lost, which led to the killing, murder, and suicide. He killed his wife because the handkerchief was misplaced, and then he killed himself. After the play Othello, at the end of the 17th century, handkerchiefs became wildly used, and everywhere in Western Europe, every person had a handkerchief. At the beginning of the 18th century, the handkerchief crossed the Atlantic to the 13 colonies. Women could be seen everywhere in the 19th century, carrying handkerchiefs, parades, and political rallies. At the end of the 19th century, you could see men carrying handkerchiefs in their front suit pockets. Every man who was considered a gentleman could not be seen without a handkerchief in his front pocket. Which leads me to the 20th century, which is where I'll end my speech for today. Handkerchiefs could be seen by men such as Cary Grant, Fred Astaire, and my favorite, Gary Cooper, because there is a style called the Cooper. And as you know, my son's name is Cooper. I'm going to try and show you today, if you can see me on the screen, how to make the Cooper. They use the handkerchief, also called the pocket square. And what you do is you take the square, you turn it upside down like this, and you just let it fall. You go about 1/3 down, flip it over, down as the puff. And you just put it in your front pocket. That is the most common pocket square that there is. There's all kinds of fancy ones, but that's the easiest one to make. I'll finish my speech and we'll go into the 21st century. We'll see how it came back in, and I can't style with the pocket square. I think Pat's favorite show is Mad Men. Anyway, that's it for today. And I can't wait to finish my speech. There's so much more to tell you. Madam Toastmaster.
That was wonderful. Yay for both of our speakers. In the meantime, go ahead and send Stacy a note if you like through chat. There should be a private chat with just her name on it.